It's kind of common for YouTubers to start off videos that might be a little bit spicy by saying things like, this video is so hard to make, and I guess that's a little bit true here in the fact that I am a bit worried about making this video because I'm afraid of being judged or of letting anyone down. But I also feel pretty confident in what I'm doing, and so I just like to explain my situation to you. Maybe sometimes people follow a path, something like this, from student to professor. I've got professor up there because it is like the pinnacle of the academic pathway, but sometimes maybe a path looks more like this between those same destinations. And I have always, throughout my life, been going on this path, this straight trajectory. I've always done things that I feel were quite obviously seen as going forward in the right direction towards some goal. Although right now, I think I'm on here and I think I'm maybe going off somewhere like this. So I have withdrawn from my PhD program and I don't even know if I'm going on a path to professor, which used to be the old destination, or if I'm going to end up somewhere completely different, and maybe I'm okay with that. Coming to this decision to withdraw from my PhD program was actually pretty difficult, and I think the main emotional strain that I felt was that for the first time in my life I was unsure of what I wanted to do. I mean this in terms of career, because I'd always been going to the same destination, which maybe was wanting to be a professor or teaching at a university level. However, I started to not enjoy my PhD that much, and I also felt a little bit disillusioned with the academic system as a whole. I guess what I felt was, for the first time, this unsure feeling of where I wanted to be, and it was almost overwhelming because it meant that I could do anything I wanted to do. If I stopped aiming for this one thing, then I could just pick any other random thing to aim for, and that was almost overwhelming in a way, in a good way, like that there were so many possibilities that I could do. I only officially withdrew from the PhD program in January, even though I'd known for a while that it's what I wanted to do, and I didn't want to make a video about it before it was official, in case anyone involved saw this video and got a bit surprised. In terms of where I was in the program, I was about a year into the research component of doing a PhD. To finish the PhD, probably would have had to stay doing that for another 2+ years, maybe 2 or 3 maximum. I didn't need to do any more coursework or exams. It was only research and writing a thesis that I needed to do to get the PhD. And so it kind of seems like, oh, you're so close, why didn't you just stay? But the reasons that I wanted to leave, I guess there are lots of reasons, and I'm just going to keep talking until I feel like most of them have come out. I just felt like it was the best decision for me to leave, even though in the grand scheme of things I was kind of close to finishing. I kind of toyed with the idea of leaving in my mind for a little while, but I didn't think I would actually be brave enough to do that because it seemed a bit extreme. But I kind of remember one day just cycling to uni, and I don't know, it would take like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and I felt like my bike would just get heavier and heavier the closer I got, and in a way that I felt sort of unmotivated to arrive. And it was sort of this general feeling that I would go to uni and be there for a while, but really I wanted to just go home and work on things that I actually really enjoyed. So YouTube is one of them, but I mean, there were sort of a lot of little side projects I enjoyed doing, and I felt like I was torn and I was separating my time between working on my PhD and working on the things I actually liked, where it got to the point where it kind of felt unsustainable and kind of inauthentic to try to work on both at the same time. So ultimately I decided to get rid of the thing that I didn't enjoy doing and just to do the things that I do enjoy. Sure, I could have just kept going and just stuck at it, and in fact a lot of sort of more senior PhD students, maybe they're in their 3rd or even 4th year of research, I'd spoken to them a bit, and there was this general sentiment. Almost every one of them said, oh, those feelings are normal for a PhD student. Wait till you get to third year or fourth year. Then you'll really feel like you don't want to be here. But I thought, okay, sure, like a lot of people have said that you get to a point where you feel a bit disillusioned with everything, and almost everyone apparently wants to pull out at some point during the PhD. But why should that be normal? And I thought, well, if I'm feeling like this already 1 year in, well, how am I going to be feeling in 3 years in? Like, I don't want to be 3 years in feeling this, because then I don't really have the option to just leave and just leave it all behind. But at my current point, I feel like the sooner the better, and in the sense that I could just leave and I wouldn't lose too much effort and investment into this thing. I would hate to be leaving further into the PhD. So yeah, if I was dragging my feet to sort of get to uni each day, I think that it was good to just actually do something I was excited about. I also did a bit of reflecting during this time, and I came to the conclusion that everything in my life that I've done that I've been quite proud of came as the result of doing something brave. So really stepping out of my comfort zone, or just making the decision that wasn't the easy one. Doing things like that had got me to the point that I was at. And actually I felt like it had been a while since I'd done anything brave or not taken the easy road. Maybe starting the PhD in the first place was taking the easy road for me. I know it sort of sounds strange to say that about pursuing a PhD, but after I'd finished my undergrad and things, it was kind of the most readily available thing, and I had a scholarship to do it. It was actually the path of least resistance to just keep going in academia. So when I think about this decision, it is quite brave for me to leave academia and try to do some other things for a while. A totally separate reason kind of was highlighted for me in the form of a YouTube comment left on one of my videos. Now I'm going to read it out, and this was posted on my fortnight video, and I kind of owe this guy a reply, so I'm going to do that here in this video. So Basketball Guy commented on my video, "This is fairly off topic for this video, but based on your earlier videos, it seems like you got interested in physics because you were interested in, as you said, those big questions like, what is our place in the universe? Do you feel like you are still pursuing the answers to those questions by studying plant cell physiology? I would have thought you would end up in theoretical physics, trying to understand the standard model, or trying to quantize gravity or study GR, or doing something like experimental quantum mechanics." And I replied to this guy and I just said, this comment hits too close to home, and he said, I'd love to hear the full story. So maybe this is a little bit of the full story. Maybe I did start to feel like the topic of my PhD, which was experimental biophysics, was maybe deviating a bit from where I saw my greatest passion in physics. Maybe I started to feel like it wasn't really truly me. And I don't know how much that is true, because I did actually quite enjoy that project. I do enjoy asking those big questions like, you know, what is out there in the universe and what is our place in it? And physics offers some answers to those questions, but you're probably never going to answer questions like that in the scope of a PhD. That's sort of a romantic idea of what a PhD student, what their life would be like, what they're working on. Often students are working on, you know, quite obscure little elements of physics. Maybe they fit into this bigger picture of what physics is. I liked that I was using physics and applying it to biology and looking at these tiny little structures and trying to, I guess, find out the secrets of how they're working. I did enjoy that, but I guess that comment is right. I guess when I think about my future in physics and how I got into it, I kind of do like the idea of working in theoretical physics or quantum mechanics or stuff like that. So whilst maybe I agree that every PhD student wants to leave at some point and loses motivation, maybe the ones that stay, it's because they have that really fundamental motivation in what they're doing, and it really is exactly, you know, what they picture themselves doing, and they're moving towards answering these big questions in their own mind, and that allows them to have the motivation to stay even when it's really tough. I think my problem is also just that I am interested in so many things. I think there's so many different projects I could do for a PhD that picking one of them, you will always be unsatisfied that you didn't pick any number of the other ones, because it's just really hard to decide what you want to work on when the scope is so large. In terms of my academic future, I wouldn't rule out returning to a PhD program at some point, just not right now. I think right now for me there are other opportunities. One of them is YouTube, but it's not the only one, that have a lot more momentum for me than the PhD. So yeah, I can kind of see myself finishing a PhD in the future, but what the topic will be on, I have no idea. People who were critical of my decision said to me that, you should just get the PhD because that qualification will last forever and YouTube might not be around forever. And I fully agree with that. I don't think YouTube will be around forever. I actually am not that optimistic it will be around in the same way that it is for very long at all. Like even a few years into the future, I find it very hard to predict, how people will be learning and what people will be using. Maybe it will still be YouTube, but maybe it will be something else entirely. And that's actually kind of the point, is that I feel like the universities and the PhD system is going to be around a lot longer than YouTube is. So I should jump on doing YouTube now while I have the opportunity, and I can go back to the PhD later because it's still going to be there. So really, right now, I just want to make videos full-time for YouTube. I think that I've seen so much power in education on YouTube. It's how I learned, it's how I taught myself things, and I think it's how people are learning these days. Not just learning, but also gaining inspiration and new ideas and connecting with other people and actually working on awesome projects that excite me. When you compare that to the academic learning system, I much prefer YouTube. I don't know, I used to want to teach at the university system, and that was, why I was going off to this destination of professor. But really, I'm so much more excited by the reach that you can get online, just in a video made in your bedroom, right? You could reach 1 million people. You could never really reach that same sort of audience teaching in a conventional environment. And maybe it's not as impactful if you're just, talking through a video, but I actually find it more impactful because you guys get to know me, and the people that I watch on YouTube, I feel sort of connected to them in a way that I don't feel when I'm learning in a conventional place. I'm also doing a little bit of freelance science communication work, and in general, just pursuing the projects that I'm interested in. I am interested in startups and that sort of community, and so maybe I would like to make my own business, probably based around education and online education, but we'll see what happens there. I haven't got any solid plans at the moment. That's just something that I know I'd really enjoy. While I have this momentum in this science communication aspect of my life at the moment, I just want to run with it and see where we go. It was a bit of a risky decision for me to just quit my PhD, and I felt a bit like it was metaphorically jumping off a cliff because I was sort of jumping into the unknown. I'm still floundering in the unknown a little bit, especially because these projects that I want to work on are still in their infancy, but I do have confidence and I'm happy with what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm just going to keep doing it. When I did decide to do this, I was really scared of disappointing people. The number one person I was scared of disappointing was my PhD supervisor, and it took me, I guess, multiple meetings with her to actually work up the courage to say that I wanted to leave. That's because she was a really good supervisor. But I think that fact was reflected in what her response was, which is that she was excited for me. And after a while, she said that she felt like her job as a supervisor was done, that she'd, set me off on a path to doing something I enjoyed. And that was so nice and I guess so perfect to what I wanted to hear. And I feel like that really was the goal of a supervisor, is to get their students, to to a pathway to a job, to doing something that they enjoy. So yeah, I guess I didn't need to be so afraid there. You know, there was other people that I was afraid of disappointing too. I did have this quite fancy PhD scholarship from one of the banks in Australia, Westpac, and I was kind of afraid of what would happen when I told them that I was leaving the program, that they'd like been giving me money to do. But actually they were really supportive as well. And, you know, when I told them that I'd quit, they actually were like, oh, can we write an article about you and what you're doing now? Because that's so exciting. And so just this week they've published an article, you know, about my YouTube channel. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe I didn't need to be so worried. The only other people that I'm really worried about disappointing is you guys, because sometimes I get comments saying like that I'm someone's inspiration in terms of pursuing physics or maths, whatever. And I don't know how much of that inspiration comes from the fact that I'm a PhD student and that, you know, that's my current title. I guess this doesn't change anything of like my knowledge or what I've done or achieved in the past, but I felt sort of afraid that people would no longer find me as inspirational. But really, I want to be authentic with people here on YouTube, and I want you to know that I am also a student just like you, and so I have my own things to figure out as well. You know, I get asked a lot of questions to do with giving advice on picking majors or picking courses or anything like this, as if I am, you know, up on a pedestal handing out advice because I know the perfect way to do everything, but that's so far from the truth. I only have my own experience and I'm still figuring things out too. So I want you to know that I have flaws as well. So you can watch my journey here, but you know, it is a journey. So I am not at that destination yet, I feel. If I had a time machine and could go a few years into the future and already have my PhD degree, you know, already have the qualification, and I think, well, what would I do with it? What I would want to do is exactly what I'm doing right here, right now. So I'm really grateful to have you watching and to have this, you know, way to provide educational content. It's something that I really appreciate and I really enjoy. Because I'm already doing exactly what I want to do right now, that's why I felt like I didn't need my PhD degree. But, you know, I know that people's minds change. I'll see how I feel in a few more years maybe. Thank you so much for your support. From here, if anything, things will be the same, but I'll be uploading more content, hopefully better content. And thank you for sticking around, and thanks for watching.